Yo, what's up guys, Seiishizo here, and I think a pretty interesting video for today. I stopped farming giants, and why is that? What is the reason behind not farming giants anymore? Because before you always heard me say it's like, farm giants, get your swift runes over there, put everything of resources towards like whatever you pay for, that you can select fire runes, then select fire runes unless there's a hero, then you put them in fight runes. But that is the main thing that I've been saying for a very long time. Actually, since the release of Abyss Heart, I have been farming giants and giants pretty much only. But there's something that I noticed at some point. If I'm looking at Swift, also, first of all, if we selected like how many quads do I have in each? So we can select it by this. In Swift, I'm looking at 12. In Vio, I'm looking at just 7. And that is just the sheer fact of farming for like 2 years straight in Giants for like 12 to 16 hours a day on a fast team. But hear me out on the following thing. I am to the point where if I get a Swift rune that is like a 24, it's already kind of useless. Like, I have enough depth that in slot 1, for example, anything that is 29 is pretty much useless. Even in the slot 3, where I don't have any quads, getting another 29 doesn't really help me as much unless there's something like really good next to it, which is pretty rare as well. Slot 4, same thing. Like, I'm just looking for quad speeds. Same over here, I'm just looking for quad speeds. Anything else that's not a quad speed is not that interesting. Whereas with Violent, runes like these are still interesting. Let's say you get this. So 24 speed, 14 accuracy. On Swift, arguably very usable, but on Violent, definitely a lot more value. Especially if you were to go, let's say, a 24 on a 16. On Swift, it would be like, yeah, you could put it maybe on Irene, you can put it maybe on this or that, but it's nowhere near as crazy good as this is for a Vio rune. And that is the main thing that I've been walking into. I'm kind of feeling I just need a Swift quad on speed, or it's pretty much useless. For the damage set, I already have plenty of those. I'm just looking for more Swift quads, and those are that rare that pretty much everything is just straight up a sell or not an upgrade or not even an improvement for depth. That is the main reason that I'm switching off from no longer farming any giants for quite a bit of time, because the simple fact is that I'm just looking for quad speeds, and sure, you're gonna get them over a long duration of time. I did just showcase it over here. I do have a fair bit of those. I didn't re-up, I think, a single one of those. Maybe I re-upped 1 out of 12. Everything just came from farming. But yeah, it's just looking for more and more of those, and you also need them in the specific slots. As you can see, I have 5 on the slot 1, and I need them on the slot 3. On the slot 3, I don't have any, but even if I were to get them on the slot 3, it wouldn't be really a speed upgrade, because then I would already have different runes in here that are like a 29 and like 28s and those kind of things. So in the end, what is really an upgrade is pretty hard to say. Holy shit, I just see an ant over there and that thing is fucking huge. Holy hell, where the fuck did you came from? Let me get rid of you first. Brother, I felt like I was in the fucking end arc from the Hunter or whatever that was, but that thing fucking huge. Okay, got rid of that. Let's continue on. I have absolutely no clue where I was. So yeah, in the end, we're farming to get upgrades. And the thing that I've really been noticing, Swift is just not really giving me any upgrades. The thing is that I always did say is like, okay, I'm farming giants and I put all of the resource towards Violent because that is the best way of distribution, because the drop rates on Violent, for example, for Dragon Slayer is the worst. So we have 5 runes over here, which the lowest one is Despair. And we do have 6 over here and the lowest one is Violent. In the case of Necro, it's 5 over there and lowest is Rage. So for that reason, I always said like going for Violent farming is not that interesting. But there's a few reasons that I actually did decide to go back into Violent farming. First of all, I already farmed a fair bit of Necro. Every time that I was low on crystals and I didn't really want to spend any money on the game, I was in Necro, so my will runes are already pretty decent. If you did not do that, I would actually rather recommend people to go into Necro farming rather than anything. Necro farming currently is also super easy. You have like the very typical teams out there. I don't think we're gonna find that team, or if I do it, yeah, this team is very typical. If you want to do it a little bit safer, you remove the Ikaru for the Shaman. We'll definitely run super safe. Sure, you're not gonna get 20-second average on that or something like that. But Necro farming is actually very chill right now, and I can recommend a lot of people to go for Necro farming because will runes in the end are crazy good. But also with the current meta, we have a bunch more vampire units such as Traverse, such as Misty, such as a bunch of other stuff that are actually really good to do. But I actually decided to start farming dragons again. Why am I farming dragons? Well, to just get more fire runes. And what I'm going to do with those Vio runes, could I even keep this maybe? Well, that's also the thing with Vio runes. Since Vio works on that many weird units, it is more of a thing which you can actually maybe use towards certain things. Could I keep this for Leo or Feng Yang? I mean, no, I already have better than that. But yeah, that's just the main thing that I'm aiming for, trying to get a little bit better of Vio depth. And that's the thing, you need that many Vio runes rather than you need Swift runes. So improving depth is definitely an interesting thing. But then again, what kind of dungeon you're farming really depends on what kind of content you want to focus on. Because for example, if you really want to focus on Arena, you still got to be in Giants, most likely. If you really want to focus on Siege or Guild content in general, Violent or Will is actually helping you out more than Swift, except if you need a better, faster set for just your Adriana Cleave or anything like that. If you're looking at RTA, well, let's actually look at RTA, the most common units out there. So first one, Vio Will, Vio Despair, Vio Will or Despair. Swift, the only Swift unit out there, but definitely Willed as well. So once again, all of the units thus far are Will rune requirements. Could be anything, but definitely Violent. Most of the time, Violent Will. Could be Swift, could be Vio, could be Despair, but most of the time still Will is definitely Willed. Definitely a Will unit over there. And that's kind of the trend. Like this one, these two are Swift units out there, but these are the second and third Swift units so far on the list. And one of them is actually doing pretty horrible at the moment. So that kind of sees or shows the trend that there's not too many Swift units very well used. Just sure, good Sonya helps you out. Sure, a good Athena helps you out. But the main thing is, it's all about the She-Ho right now. All of the others are kind of more second there, maybe like even third kind of scenarios where you want to use them. But pretty much a lot of these units that we just scroll through are all Vio units right now. Okeanos super hard in meta right now, definitely a Vio unit. Sierra, Oliver, all of those kind of things. They're definitely more Vio focused than it is Swift focused in current meta. Especially for defenses, in most cases, it's still Vio, but it's also very Will focused. So I would actually recommend, if you're not farming Giants, I can recommend you start farming a bunch of Necro. If you are lacking on your Will runes, absolutely farm Necro. Necro is one of the better dungeons out there because, once again, we also have Misty in the meta right now. I think Trevor will definitely be a meta thing to stay. And getting a bunch more Vampire runes in there is really nice. Making a second Juno that's Vampire is really nice. There's a lot of options for Vampire runes to be nice. Destroy runes are super nice in Siege. You also have Nemesis runes, which are very good for both defense, Siege, Arena, pretty much everything out there, RTA as well. So there's a whole bunch of options where I would say that Necro is actually one of the better dungeons to farm right now. But only if you got to the point where you say it's like, okay, the only thing that I'm aiming for is Swift quad speeds. Like if you're only looking for Swift quad speeds and any Swift just like 23 or 24 is not really gonna help you, that is maybe the point where you should be saying is like, okay, maybe I should stop farming Giants mindlessly for that I've been doing for the last 2 years. Was it a waste? No, totally not. I think you definitely have to farm a fair bit of Giants out there. It's absolutely recommended to do so. But it is also recommended at some point that if you're farming one dungeon way too much, that it is better to switch to a different dungeon for a fair bit of time. Also, talking about that, and I love to talk about that always, start farming Steel Fortress and Punisher's Crypt. The dungeons are a little bit more difficult and a little bit more annoying, but for that I do have the dungeon guide archive in the video description down below. Or it's just a link to the Discord, you can join that. And pretty much all of the guides on all of the dungeons that I have will be in there. So if you're looking for any particular guide, I highly recommend to check that out because I have guide on pretty much everything out there. And all of them are kind of like classified if it's easy to rune, not easy to rune, what units to use, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. So yeah, for me, I will be farming dragons. I will be farming dragons probably for a fair bit. Also, the upgrade that we currently have is that the crafting only gives 6 stars right now, which we didn't have earlier on. And because of that, it will be a lot easier to get violent runes, because right now, if you farm a fair bit of giants, all of the crafting material still goes into like the crafting material for Swift, most likely. Sure, you could go for Despair, but most of the time I'm just crafting the Swifts regardless. So with this, it helps you a lot to get more violent runes in there as well. And yeah, the crafting just simply helps out a lot with that. You also have like the special crafting that you get for whatever you just do. You just get like a bunch of materials in this. I would still put this all at random. I would never put that at Vio because it's just way too expensive. And I don't think Contours is ever changing that. But yeah, that's just a little bit too expensive. Might you ask, say, what team am I using to farm dragons right now? It is the team that I showcased before with the Shaina and the Sabrina, that pretty much never fails. I did even manage to get a big upgrade on this whole team, because the last time I ran this, it was like 9 months ago or something like that. But video of this is still like in that Dungeon Guide archive as well. So if you want to find anything of that, recommend to check that out over there. I will also update the Dungeon Guide archive later today because I haven't updated it in quite a bit of time. But yeah, this is just one of those teams. It is definitely hard to rune. I can showcase the rune qual or like the runes in just a second. But this team pretty much never fails because the Liam is actually tanky enough to survive a hit. And the odds of not landing the armor break with a double Shina move is so incredibly low that it pretty much just doesn't happen except for like 1%. And we're looking at like averages of like 28, 29. Kind of depends like how often the Liam does derp. Whereas the Liam already has a pretty solid set. As mentioned, it's higher on the defense and the HP, so it can survive a hit under 30% even with dots. And then we also have minus fire over here. Rest all kind of makes sense. This thing, it is a swift plus a fight, and we're not looking at any accuracy because the accuracy part is fixed by Shina, and Shina has the one that has to land the armor break. Her armor break on the S1 is a low activation rate anyway, so we don't care. We also have like a, well, pretty much 24 damage increase over here, and we have another bit over there. The Julie, we actually did get a fair bit of an upgrade for. I think we added in like 100 extra attack compared to the last time that I ran it. And that's just mainly based on like getting a bunch of these kind of weird ass quads or like double on these kind of things or whatnot. Pretty decent runes in general. Triple fighter on the Shina. We do add in more go-up damage, damage fire, and that kind of good stuff. Accuracy is fixed in here for the S3 to actually get towards the, you need 65 in total. You have 25 from the passive, you get like 15 in there, and then you get up to the 65. And we also did get a fair bit of an upgrade on the Luna. As mentioned, I farmed a fair bit of rage. Every time that I did not want to spend money on the game that much, I was farming something that just worked out a little bit slower for me. I think that this is also both sides slight bit of an upgrade to how I ran it last time. But yeah, I just got more crit damage, and crit damage is the main thing that you care about for this team. So that is pretty much how I've been running it. I would highly recommend if you farm too much Giants and you just simply feel like, hey, I'm not getting any upgrades for like a whole month of Giants farming. That's maybe where you should be thinking of like, okay, what can I do that I actually farm the least that I can get an upgrade from? And that could be PC, that could be SF, that could be Necro, that could be Dragons. But I think I can actually quite recommend people to get their asses out of Giants, because probably you've been farming way too much Giants and way too little other things that at some point, like, you can keep farming Giants. Sure, at some point you're gonna get your speed quad, but it might take you a fair bit of time. And in the meantime, you could have had like 3, 4, or even 5, or maybe even more upgrades on a different like farming team or a different farming dungeon altogether. So that's my recommendation. That is what I'm going to do. Doesn't mean that you have to do the same thing, because if you still can get a lot of upgrades in Giants and you feel like you're getting rewarded for doing Giants, definitely still stick to Giants. But for me, and I think for a lot of people, I've been talking to a fair bit of people, and a lot of people have been like, yeah, I've been farming for like a whole month and I pretty much keep nothing. Like, I keep some runes here and there, and then I upgrade them, and then I feel like after a week or two I check, it's like, wait, but I already have way better than this, or I already have like 3 or 4 similar of these. Like, if you get that kind of feeling, that is probably the reason and the why, and the how that you should be switching your dungeon. And as mentioned, if you want to check out any dungeon team, Dungeon Guide archive, I'll be updating it before this video goes live, so I got about like 4 hours to update that stuff. So guys, thanks a lot for watching for this one. Let me know in the comments what you're farming at the moment, and if you're farming anything else, or if you're planning to farm anything else after this video. So curious to see what you guys are at the moment. And also let me know, do you feel like you get any upgrades? Or at some point, well, the game is 11 years old. We've been farming for legit like 11 years. Like, at some point, getting the upgrades, like, there is a max ceiling of what a rune can be. And getting a max ceiling of a hero is very doable. Getting a max ceiling of a legendary is very hard. But at some point, if all of the heroes are just straight up bad, or like you have a triple roll in speed and 1 roll in something else and it's still not usable, that's why you probably have to be looking as like, okay, maybe I should be farming something else. Well, that was me for today. Guys, thanks a lot for watching, and see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.